of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome everyone to the Spotlight here on Fightful. I'm Jeremy Lambert, that's Stephen Jensen, and shout out as always to Big Dick MLJ for the intro. It is Thursday, July 23rd. Plenty to talk about in the world of professional wrestling, but the only thing that matters, Jensen, are you employed?
It's a good question, isn't it? That's the real question everyone wants to know the answer to. SP3 will appreciate this. I doubt he's in here. We're starting early, by the way, everyone that is here live with us. Thank you very much. I was available a little bit earlier, than normal today. Because as Charlie Conway said in Mighty Ducks 3, I went to my boss today and told them that I'm ready to play two-way hockey. And I went in early and I did the training and I did the job that I don't want to do because I'm still in the running for other jobs and I don't want to mess that up. And it's just way easier for everybody involved if I just stick it out in the meantime. And I have a gambling addiction and I need to be able to fund it somehow. So obviously I need the income so that I can, baseball season is still happening right now. And, NFL is coming up soon. So I got to make sure that I can fund my hobby with my job. And but all jokes aside, no, I stayed with my company and there was no, there was no ill will on their end or anything. They knew it was up and they knew the situation I was in. And that's the whole reason that PTO, paid time off, exists in corporations like what I work at. Like it's if you need to get away and clear your head, they're not allowed to ask questions. They just got to move on business as usual. And I'm on good terms with my boss and just kind of doing a job I don't really want to do, but my pay didn't change at all. So I'm still making the same money I was already making, which is, obviously that's nice. So, that's pretty much where it's at. I'd rather be disgruntled and continue my job and continue to make that money versus being unemployed and then starting from scratch somewhere else potentially or waiting on something else. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah. I was actually DMing your wife DM'd me a little bit. She's been asking me for updates. And, she referenced Office Space. And I thought that was a good comparison. I'm just kind of in that like Office Space mode where I'm not going to defraud the company or anything like that. I'm not going to do anything like that, obviously, but I'm just more in the mindset of like, what happens. They're still paying me. I'll give them the exact amount of work that they're paying me for. You know what I mean? No more, no less. And as long as the money continues to come in every 2 weeks for the agreed upon amount, then, I just got to look more forward to, the time off that I've got again. I really enjoyed my job the last few years. It's very disappointing that things had to change with the role in my company and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I still work fully remote and still get to work the hours that I want to work. And, come football season, I'll still be off on the weekends, can still watch my Vikings and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's where it's at. I was fired up on Thursday during the live stream. I was really, honestly, until like a day or so ago, I was ready to leave. Like I had my notice written up. I was out, and then I just
cooler heads prevailed.
Yeah.
Cooler heads prevailed.
Yeah. I did a little bit of let's call it meditating, and really thought things through, and like on a deeper level than I had in a while. And I was like, what do you really want to do here? you like baseball too much to not be gambling on it. How are you going to fund this if you're not getting paid every 2 weeks? So, anyway, I appreciate everyone in the chat for looking for updates and being supportive. But at the end of the day, I am lucky. The job market's so bad right now. Like it's just a lot of the remote work and stuff I was looking at was similar to the stuff I already do, but just like for a new company and less money. And a lot of it is like AI based, which does scare me. But like, there's people out there hiring human beings to just input data into AI tools. And like, once those AI tools are smart enough, they're not going to be used for the people. So like, there's a lot of that going on, and that, but that's happening in a lot of companies. And I think that's terrible. We as people need to continue to figure out ways to provide value to avoid that from happening to us, because it's inevitable. It's bullshit. I hate that it's happening, but it is. So anyway, the job market's not great, and I'm lucky to make the money I make and to be working from home. So, nothing much has changed. As far as for you guys, nothing's changed. I mean, this won't affect the show from happening on Thursdays. Or anything, I'll just be less happy during the day when you don't see me. That's all.
I'm a little disappointed that you only referenced SP3 of the Mighty Ducks reference. Like, I haven't seen these movies and everything as well, but that's fine. I'll let it slide.
I didn't think that you were like that into them though. Me and SP3 were like marking out hard when we did our Mighty Ducks Game Changer review. Maybe it was more Joseph that wasn't that into it. Maybe you were into it and Joseph wasn't, because it was the four of us.
Hockey's my favorite sport. Why would I not like?
I know, and I had to tell you to watch the documentary about the kid who gets the team being a Mighty Ducks fan, wrestling fan.
Much different than watching Mighty Ducks, which I grew up on. Like, we watched the third Mighty Ducks in shop class one day because I don't even remember. I think like the shop got like ruined by like water, because it was like really rainy and like it kind of like flooded, so we couldn't like work with the machines and stuff, and so we just watched Mighty Ducks, and that was very good. Good couple of days just watching the Mighty Ducks films.
I'd say best trilogy in cinematic history, in my opinion.
I didn't watch the show. Like the Game Changer thing was whatever to me, but the movies, I mean, that's my childhood.
Yeah, the Game Changer show, it was overall a massive disappointment, like collectively for sure. The first season, there were things about it that I liked, and there was a nostalgia aspect to it. And it was shot during the pandemic in Canada, so like they couldn't get a lot of people that they wanted to on the show. So there was a lot like working against the first season. I still think it was, for what it was, I enjoyed it for the most part. But then by the second season, they couldn't get Emilio Estevez back. And that's like, I mean, if you can't get Gordon Bombay, like why even pretend like this is Mighty Ducks? They couldn't get Joshua Jackson. They couldn't get like most of like the original Ducks that they wanted in this thing, and they like replaced him with Josh Duhamel, who's a Vikings fan. I like Josh Duhamel, Skull Vikings, but they tried to like replace Gordon Bombay with this like Josh Duhamel character, and it didn't work. So much so that they literally wiped the show off of Disney Plus. Like you can't find, and they did that to a lot of shows. It wasn't just that show. They do it for like tax write-offs, I think. When they just, get, or also maybe out of embarrassment. That's also very possible. I saw an interview a couple of years ago that Emilio Estevez has written an entire script for D4 and will totally do it, but Disney just like isn't interested. And he wants to do it as a way to like right the wrong of Game Changers, where it's like, just pretend like that wasn't canon and like this is the pickup of the story. You know what I mean? So anyway, I can talk about Mighty Ducks all day, but yeah, so you get the reference then, Jeremy. I told my boss, I like to quote movies and like obscure movies and wrestling quotes that I know people I don't work with have never heard before, and like they think they're mine. I just openly plagiarize other people's quotes at work, and I do it to pop myself, obviously, because they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I talk about playing two-way hockey. Like what? Yeah. They think it's like a sports reference.
Yeah, that's all that matters is popping yourself. Who cares about anything else?
Yeah. I popped a lot of people in that meeting the other day. I was telling you about how I like pieced out after like dropping that AI bomb. And like I left immediately after that, and I didn't know if I was ever coming back. But apparently, a lot of people spoke up after that. Like everyone had the concern that I had. I just was the first person to say anything about it. But like that wound up not being a problem because apparently everyone had that question. So,
all right. Anything else before we get into the pro?
No. I mean, does anyone want to hear us talk? What even happened this week in wrestling? I'm actually most excited to talk about these WWE tryout announcements for some of these people that we've interviewed over the years.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. Let's start with Redemption in AEW, though.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. And it was a great show, and I think it's been a run of great shows.
This clip is actually might be becoming more relevant because they're getting closer to 1 million fans again and a great number in the demo.
And also hearing that voice, Jeremy, I haven't said it on this show yet, but congrats on getting that TK interview. That was sick during the 24-hour. Like I was on screen with Rob and Maggie and you, and I saw him pop up in the waiting room, and I was like, holy shit, like this is crazy. It's happening. It took everything in my power not to like actually spoil it before he came on the screen. I was just like, I'm out of here. I'm going to say goodbye. I don't want to step on anyone's toes here. I really wanted to jump in my Vikings mask because you guys were talking about it, but I didn't want to like, I knew y'all had like a good thing going, so I didn't want to like interrupt that. But next time we have Tony on this platform, if I'm ever able to join, I'll totally wear my Vikings lucha mask while we're talking to him.
Yeah, I teased it throughout, but I thought it was going to happen more at like 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. instead of 4 in the afternoon. But I teased it throughout, so when you had your reaction, I kind of had my reaction. Like I think everyone maybe kind of knew that that's what it was going to be, but obviously until he was actually on screen, no one knew he was on screen. But yes, he popped up backstage, and it was very funny that you guys were all on there. So I guess sort of disclosure on things, like I knew, I don't want to retell the whole story. Go back, watching the Weeds on Monday. I guess you can't watch the 24-hour stream because like the full thing, you can watch it on Twitter if you want to. That's like the only place where it's like available fully.
I think you can do like 12 hours on YouTube.
Yeah, it keeps that, but like it didn't keep anything from this. So
gotcha.
Yeah, it's just completely gone. The reason why like I wanted to kick everybody off at 4 is because I knew there was a possibility Tony would be around at 4. And get no offense to anybody that was on the screen at that time. I'd worked very hard on securing that interview, and I wanted to, be there for that. And then Joel and SP3 were already going to be on at 4 for that. And so I'm glad they were there because I was running on no sleep on 23 hours on screen, and I needed someone to fill some gaps at that point. So, yeah, but that's why I was kicking everybody off at 4 anyway. On top of I did want the last hour to be kind of the In the Weeds crew there.
Yeah, I mean, you said that before Tony even showed up. You were like, at 4, it's just going to be the 3 of us to close out the last hour. So, like, you told us that before he even showed up in the waiting room. So, like,
and part of that was like, I knew there was a possibility he could show up between 4 and 5, and I didn't want a bunch of people on screen and then Tony shows up, and then like I think everybody would have understood of like, hey, you guys got to go here. But I thought it was just easier if I just kind of explained it away of, hey, for the last hour, I want the In the Weeds crew, and it's just going to be us for the last hour type of thing. And then if Tony shows up, great. And if he doesn't, then the last hour was sort of, again, what I wanted it to be with us 3. So it worked out. I hate kicking people off though. Like
oh no, it's all good. I totally get it. Like, and hopefully at some point, who knows if it'll take years again, but maybe we can get him on here at some point. I'd obviously love to talk to Tony Khan at some point, even if it's just about nerding out on wrestling or football. Like, that's got to be the most relatable billionaire conversation I've ever heard in my life. Like that interview that you did. But it was, I will say this though, you're a coward because you were asking about everything, and you're bringing up like booking mistakes and too many belts and all this stuff. And I was like, this is great, because you're not grilling him. You're just bringing up like, I bring this kind of stuff up on the show all the time. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like someone's asking the actual president of the company how they feel about it. So I thought it was incredible. But you didn't ask about Cody leaving. I was kind of cowardly.
not going to ask.
I was kind of cowardly. I mean, you had a good thing going, and like you totally could have slid that in. But
I could tell you the answer about Cody leaving. We have a great relationship with Cody. He was one of the great stars when we first started the company. He was a very important piece of the company. He was a great first TNT champion, and worked really well with Cody, and he made the decision to leave, and we wish Cody the best. And now we're just focused on AEW, and we're having a great year in 2026. We've been having great years since Cody has left the company, but especially this year, and especially on pay-per-view, we're having a great year with AEW and all the great wrestlers now, like MJF and Kenny Omega and Hangman Page and Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight's actually going to be headlining AEW Redemption next Sunday at the time of this interview. Next Sunday against Kenny Omega. Kevin Knight's one of the great young top stars here in AEW. It's going to be great to see him headline this pay-per-view against Kenny Omega. He's already the reigning TNT champion. Cody was the first TNT champion, but Kevin Knight might be the best TNT champion. He has the most successful title defenses of any TNT champion for one run, and now he's going to try to go after two belts. Jet 2 belts is what he's calling himself right now. He's going to be taking on Kenny Omega, and that's going to be the main event of AEW Redemption next Sunday, only on pay-per-view. That would have been the answer.
That was perfect. That's literally bar for bar verbatim what Tony Khan would have said. So, yeah, I guess I can't argue that. I can't even remember what I was going to say next. I had like a whole other thing I was going to ask, but that was too good. Oh, what I was going to say, yeah. Just speaking of Cody, just real quick, he's doing a signing and pictures here in my hometown, or that's where I currently live. So I didn't even know about this event. There's like this, it's called like Pinkerton's Kids or something.
Yeah, that's Brandy's like little shop.
Yes, I knew that they were financially tied to it to some degree, because they've done the same kind of thing with her like Pilates or yoga studio or whatever she has here in town. The same kind of thing where they do meet and greets. They're trying to bring in business. I get it. But anyway, I found out about it like the next, like it was announced at like 9 p.m. or something, or 8 p.m. I guess, like the night before, and I didn't see the announcement. And the next day I went on the website to get a ticket for the meet and greet, and they were already all sold out. I was like, that's crazy. But like Gunner's going to be coming into town and stuff, so maybe I'll get to see some people. Maybe I'll still swing by. But like, this event is happening, I mean, less than 3 miles from where I live. It's like Cody's going to be right there, and they're doing. But the only downside is like it's good and bad. It's $75 for 4 people, and you get a picture with Cody, and you can get one thing signed. So if you just wanted a picture with Cody and like to meet him or say something to him, splitting $75 4 ways, and then one of you gets like to get something autographed by him, that's a really good deal. And it's even a good deal if you just pay the $75 yourself.
I feel like 75 for you get the photo solo and get one thing signed is a pretty good deal.
Yes, it really is, because Cody's autograph is worth more than, like, you can't really find anything signed by him for less than $75. So, I do have a lot of things signed by him, of course, but there's always more. I got plenty of action figures and stuff I could bring. But anyway, that's I'm gonna keep an eye on that, because maybe I'll still be able to do it. I just couldn't, like, it sold out so fast, and I know it's probably a pretty small. I haven't been over there, but it's probably a pretty small. Like when they did this with Brandy's Pilates or yoga studio, it looked like the line was like down the street of people waiting. So anyway, that's reminded me of that. I was going to buy tickets for that yesterday. It was already sold out, but it's going to literally be taking place. So if anyone happens to see or hear this, watches this show and happens to be going to that event, I'm gonna probably be right up the street at a restaurant that I like that's pretty close to there, and just kind of hanging out, and then maybe go to the event if I'm able to.
Well, Cody Rhodes will not be at AEW Redemption.
No, he will not. He will not.
This Sunday, it will be headlined by Kevin Knight against Kenny Omega. Seems like a pretty straightforward result. I think it's going to be a really great match. I think Kevin Knight's really going to show out in this match. I can't imagine him winning.
No, I think that would be a gigantic mistake, and that's obviously nothing against Kevin Knight. That would be more on it would just be really, really strange AEW booking. I know that they've had some shorter title runs with Darby and stuff recently, but it's different if it happened to Darby, and then MJF's had kind of some shorter reigns in this most recent run, and then you'd have another short run for Kenny, and then obviously everyone's expecting Ospreay to win the title, so would it be a short run for Kevin Knight then also? There's no need to hot potato that championship, especially when it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Ospreay is winning the title at Wembley. I've talked about before, it's almost false advertising if he doesn't do it. And who knows the next time they'll actually go back to Wembley. I think, did you ask him if they were going to do that yearly, or I think I saw a quote about that.
Did. Yeah. I think one of them mentioned it. I think it was SP3 because he's usually in the UK, but I think one of them had mentioned it.
Yeah, I think one of them, I'm almost positive one of them asked if they were going to look outside of Wembley or keep going back there. And it sounded like the vibe I got from it was, and this is just a vibe that I got, just a speculation, but my feeling was that they probably won't go back to Wembley in the next few years at least, or maybe not for All In. Maybe they'll go for something else, but you would think it would be All In if they're going to go.
I don't think.
But it sounded like they're looking for other places too.
Yeah, I don't think they'd run Wembley Stadium if it wasn't for All In. But there's Wembley Arena and obviously other venues. They ran the O2 for Forbidden Door last year when they went over there, I think. But obviously there's just other venues in England that I do think they'll continue to make yearly trips to England. I think Tony likes that. Obviously they got Fulham over there and everything, so it makes sense. Will it be All In every year? I don't know about that. I think that Tony liked having it in Texas last year and realizes that he can make this kind of a big event in the United States as well, and will probably continue, or will probably look to do that more in the future, but still go over to England for some type of an event.
And not to make this like a AEW versus WWE type of conversation, but the more that WWE continues to bring their big PLEs outside of the US, I think it's even smarter for AEW to keep more of the big ones in the US if they can, because I feel like that's a really big opportunity to not only serve like your hardcore fan base and all that, but like I think you can really gain new fans, or especially people who just can't, like I saw that SummerSlam, Justin Jefferson's doing commercials for SummerSlam now. It's like telling people to use his code to get $25 tickets to SummerSlam. But that's obviously on the heels of the ticket prices massively spiking. And that's been a big conversation point recently. It's a TKO issue, not just WWE. The UFC tickets are through the roof also. But the point being, there's a lot of wrestling fans that just can't really afford to go to these shows, or they're paying an arm and a leg. And, if they can go to AEW instead and bring their whole family for what it would cost like one person to go to a WWE show or something, and you wanted to go to WrestleMania, but you don't want to travel to Saudi Arabia, maybe you want to go to the big AEW show instead. It's just like, I think it's, and that's not to say that international business isn't important. I do think AEW will continue to obviously do business in other countries and keep going back to the UK. I think for sure, but I think especially if like WrestleMania and some of their really big PLEs keep going to other countries, like I just feel like, the US wrestling fans could have something to look forward to in AEW if they stay here.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else on Kevin Knight and Kenny Omega?
Oh no, just really the whole point of that was like, I think it's just super obvious that, and not a bad thing, by the way, just very obvious. Ospreay should win the championship at the show, and it just makes no sense to have Kevin Knight beat Kenny and then have all that happen. And then Kevin Knight's already talked about like vacating the TNT title if if he wins the world title, and that bleeds into the conversation that you brought up to Tony Khan himself of like, why are mid-card champions? See, the question I would have asked Jeremy, and this isn't a critique because you had a fucking incredible, like, I can't put it over enough, like, because I know SP3 did too, being on no sleep 24 hours straight, interviewed probably 50 or so people, maybe more than that, over like the span of that 24 hours, and then you went like 45 minutes to an hour with Tony. Like, that was fucking insane. But what I would have liked to ask Tony is, okay, I get that you're saying, like that back in the day, like the US champion or the TV champion, in WCW might have went up against the world champion ever. Okay, I get those comparisons. I get them. All right. Whether I like them or not, I understand the comparisons. Please just give me the hierarchy. What's the hierarchy of the AEW championships? All the men's championships. Just tell me from top to bottom, which is the value of importance of the championships. That's all I want to know. And I don't think it's possible to do because the way that they've positioned their titles in their shows, it's clearly the AEW world title is number one, even though other champions challenge for it. It's clearly the AEW title is number one. But after that, I honestly think I think because of how Moxley's done with the championship, plus him being the former champion, world champion so many times, I personally probably view the Continental Championship as number two. But like, honestly, the Continental, the International, and the TNT Championship are basically all the same level of champion. And they want the national title to also be, it's just a newer championship. But I literally, like, I would like Tony to explain that. You know what I mean? Like, because that's the problem, I think, with the importance of their title belts is, well, there's the world champion, and that one really matters. But if you're the TNT champion and you lose that title, like Kyle Fletcher, then you just go for the international championship. And if you're the international champion and you lose that title, then you just go for the continental championship. And if that doesn't work out, then you go for the national championship. And it's just, when all the titles are the same, they're all just one mid-card title, basically, that all means the same thing. So that's my one, I guess, not even critique, but that's the one question I would love to ask Tony. Just rank the title belts, because there should be a hierarchy. That's the whole point of having all these titles. What's the hierarchy?
Well, that's a great question. The AEW TNT Championship has a long history with a lot of great champions.
Oh, you're about to get, dude, don't do this for the next 10 minutes. No, okay. No, dude, I appreciate the effort, and you sound exactly like Tony Khan. It's a very good impression, but you understand, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, I mean, it's,
no, I get it. It's difficult to interview Tony because he's going to give you the answers that he's going to give you. That's a fair question of like, rank them. I can tell you right now what his answer is going to be.
But it's not even like in a disrespectful way. Like, no, these championships are valueless. That's not what I mean at all. It's just like, as the president of the company, as the decision maker to continue to create all these title belts, I guess, one, why did you do that? And two, like, just if like someone should be able to rank these. Like in WCW, it was very clear because you're making the WCW comparison when it's convenient. But like, also, if you're gonna make the same comparison, I'm talking about Tony, it's like, in WCW, like the TV championship was definitely under the US championship. The US championship was definitely under the world title. Like, there was a clear hierarchy. But with this, there isn't.
I truthfully think Tony doesn't want a hierarchy. I think he wants all of them to feel like they can be important titles depending on who has them. And I think in some ways it's actually worked. Now, look, do I think there are too many? Yes. Do I think we have too many champion versus champion match scenarios? Yes. Like, we have two on this card. Kevin Knight's the TNT champion. He's going after the world title. Kyle Fletcher's the international champion. He's facing Bandito, who's the ROH champion. I get it, it's ROH, but Bandito has a pretty prominent role on the television show and has had a pretty prominent role on the television show. John Mox is the Continental Champion. He's in a tag team match. Meanwhile, the tag team match, the tag team champions are defending against the lesser Death Rider team on this show. But I think Tony's kind of point is he wants these titles to feel like they are all on the same level, and that at any point, hey, Kyle Fletcher can challenge for the world title, even though he's the international champion. John Moxley can challenge for the world title, even though he's the continental champion. Like, he wants them to feel the same. I don't think that he wants to do like a hierarchy of everything. And I think that's kind of what he explained when I asked them if you guys have too many titles or do too many champion and champion matches.
Right. And I think that's it. Just, to me, Tony being such like a statistical, like sports based, I just feel like he would totally get the rankings kind of concern. But
the rankings.
No. But I'm also like, I get the mindset of them all being important, and that like, but yeah, I guess I just disagree with it. But at the end of the day, like, that's, I've defended Tony Khan 1,000 times, and I always will. Like, I think the only people that really hate on Tony Khan are jealous of him, whether they want to like outright admit it or not. Because I think anybody who hates on Tony Khan with like the kind of passion that I see people hate on him, like, if you had $1 billion, what would you do with it? If you could do whatever you wanted, what would you do with it? Well, maybe you would want to run your own wrestling company because you're a lifelong wrestling fan. Like, I can't hate on somebody for doing that. Like, that's the dream. Like, if somebody handed me $1 billion and was like, you're never going to run out of money, do whatever you want. Like, that's awesome. Like, who wouldn't want that? And that's Tony Khan's life. And he's doing that in football and in soccer. He just has like the most unique, crazy life ever when it comes to like these hobbies and these sports and stuff that we're into. But the reason I say all that is because whether I agree with like the hierarchy of titles or not, or too many champion versus champion and stuff, the show I think is still great, and the in-ring matches are always great, and the pay-per-views always completely deliver. And at the end of the day, that's how Tony wants to run the company, and he completely has the right to run it that way. It only takes away from the show from the perspective of like, I would just like I think it would make all of the titles mean more if there was a hierarchy. Me and him just have a difference of, I think, opinion on the value aspect there.
That's fair.
Oh
God.
Oh no, I was just gonna move on with other matches if you wanted me to.
Oh God.
So but just like you mentioned Kyle Fletcher and Bandito, so I was gonna talk about that one next. Because I'm not going to get into that whole side conversation, but like this conversation ramps up even more when you do talk about the ROH titles also being represented, and like other titles from other companies also being represented. A lot of people carrying around, I can't say a lot, but multiple people carrying around multiple belts on these shows and stuff. It can get very confusing and also dilute the value of other certain championships. For instance, if you're Bandito and you're the ROH World Champion, and you lose to Kyle Fletcher for the International Championship, which is what I expect to happen. My prediction is Kyle Fletcher. And for the record, I don't think I actually said it out loud, but Kenny Omega is my prediction over Kevin Knight in the main event. Kyle Fletcher, I am expecting to defeat Bandito. And then, once again, perception-wise, if you really want to get into like the nitty-gritty of it when it comes to the titles and hierarchy of championships, the best champion, the main champion, the number one person in the entire brand of Ring of Honor he loses to somebody who is, based on everything we've just talked about, he's a mid-card AEW champion. So you're basically saying the international championship on AEW is better and means more, and that champion is a better wrestler. Like Kyle Fletcher is better than Bandito. He beat him straight up, whether it's cheating or whatever. But Kyle Fletcher beats Bandito. Your international champion is higher in my hierarchy, in my own mind, than the ROH World Champion is. And that's why I would avoid having these kind of belt versus belt matches, because it just doesn't, or champion versus champion matches. It just doesn't, there's no need to do any of that. Like, But I think it's gonna be an awesome match. And that's where I'll always give Tony Khan the slack and the credit. Is like, I want to see Kyle Fletcher versus Bandito, but I'd probably go into this liking it more and it being less predictable. I feel like if Bandito had no title going into this.
I don't love this match from that same perspective of Bandito loses every big pay-per-view match. Why is he just getting this title shot? Don't you have another contender here? I know they're doing a number one contender match on this pay-per-view, so at least there's that, but I don't know why Bandito is getting this. They gave him the win last night on Dynamite. He got the tag team victory. Like, okay, like, good. I'm glad he got that win. He pinned Fletcher, but all it's going to do is set things up for him to lose on Sunday. I don't love this match. Like, I just don't, because Bandito's your ROH champion, but every big match he's in AEW, he loses, but he beats everybody in ROH. So there's your hierarchy, I guess. And you mentioned it, of like, Bandito's the best in ROH, but he's just kind of a mid-card guy in AEW, and everybody in ROH are jobbers.
I mean, that's kind of, unfortunately, the slippery slope of that in the perception, because also Bandito, for the most part, is a tag team wrestler on AEW TV with Brody King. So it's like, I like Brodito. I think they're a good tag team, but once again, it's just kind of like Bandito. I don't want to say he's just another guy, because he is a great performer. And he's one of the guys that stands out when I show my non-wrestling fans, like when they ever come over for AEW shows. Bandito is someone they always mention, because they just, with his strength and the 21 plex and all the stuff that he does, like it stands out, in the mask. And so I totally, but like you said, I also don't think it helps when it comes to perception of Ring of Honor in general when you do all this, because you're also expecting people to like buy Ring of Honor pay-per-views when they come around, and it's kind of hard. It's kind of a hard sell when Bandito is the main draw of the brand. Well, Athena is the main draw of the brand, but Bandito on the male side, and you just see him lose all the big matches on AEW, and then it's like, oh, I'm not gonna pay money to watch this guy defend a championship that is worse than the international title. Like, it is totally avoidable. Like, that's kind of, I guess, the frustration is, like, you have a humongous roster. Like, this is super avoidable.
Yeah, it is. Like, Bandito doesn't have to be in this spot. You put Brody in this spot. Like, literally beat for beat, the same thing. Maybe they don't want to beat Brody, but they're obviously comfortable beating Bandito.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I prefer, from the belt perception standpoint, I would prefer it was Brody. And I like Brody as a wrestler. It's a different stylistic matchup, him versus Fletcher. I think it'd still be great. So I'm with you. But my prediction, obviously, is Kyle Fletcher.
Thekla and Willow Nightingale.
I feel like Thekla's doing, like, she's way more over, like, recently. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I've always liked Willow, and it was unfortunate when she got hurt and everything, of course, but like, I just don't see them switching the championship here. I'm all for Willow getting a AEW Women's World Title reign, by the way. I always liked Willow, even like years ago on the independent scene. Like, she's always stood out, and I've always liked her style. So personally, I'd love to see Willow get the title, but I'm gonna say they retain. I'm gonna say Thekla retains. What about you?
I think it's gonna be Willow, mainly because I think they want to do Willow and Mercedes at All In.
Ooh,
but I think it should be Thekla. Like, she's done such a great job that I want to see her and Mercedes at All In more than I want to see her and Willow at this point. It's really a toss-up, though. There's a lot of intrigue in this match, because it looked like it was going to be foregone conclusion for Willow. Like, oh yeah, they're going to do Willow and Mercedes. But Thekla's just done such a great job, especially over these past few weeks, of making this even more important than it was, and again, just being who she is, that I think people are coming around of like, well, why can't we do Thekla and Mercedes at all? And why does it have to be Willow?
Yeah. And both match options are great. I'm cool with either of those matches. Obviously, I know that Mercedes gets the title shot from the Owen tournament, but yeah, both matches are great options. And I feel like, I mean, obviously Willow would be the automatic baby face, at Wembley for that show, but the other two, Tekla and Mercedes, if it was the two of them against each other, you can just basically just let the fans choose who they want to go with. I mean, they're both very over in their own ways. So I think it's a win-win. I think no matter which option they go, they can go triple threat for all I care. I like all three women.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll go triple threat. Tony's never seemed super keen on doing triple threat matches, but maybe that's the compromise here, is they do a triple threat match.
Yeah,
I'm going Willow officially.
Okay, I'm going with.
I'm not mad at Tekla wins though. Not mad at all.
Yeah, I think the more the more likely scenario is Willow versus Mercedes because of like their history and everything in AEW, and I think that no matter what, it's going to be a great match with any combination of these three. So yeah, I'm with you.
Cope and Christian against the Death Rider B team, Pac and Claudio.
Yeah, so you have so you're ranking the A team as Osprey and Mox, and then the B team is these two, and then the C team is Wheeler and Garcia.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, yeah, I'm going to go with Cage and Cope retaining. I think it's going to be a good one, though.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Obviously, sometimes I just watch. I think this is for the previous match, just so we don't miss it. But thank you for the super chat, Henry. Says this could become a 3-way at all, and I think he's talking about the women's match we were just talking about. Yeah, we agree. You might be a little bit behind us with the delay, Henry, but yeah, I threw that idea out there too. I think it's possible. But dude, sometimes especially that I've been like trying to get in better shape and I've been like doing pull-ups and stuff recently. I just gained this like whole new respect for Claudio Castagnoli because I've seen his like workout videos over the years, just random like highlight videos of him lifting and manipulating like large people or big weight or like working out with Sheamus and stuff. We haven't even talked about that, Sheamus leaving WWE, but anyway, Claudio is just such a freak of nature. Like, so just throwing that out there. And obviously, and when it comes to Pac, I still like to, one of the things I like to do at night, like when I'm kind of winding down, like trying to kind of fall asleep. I take melatonin every night. I know you did at the end of your stream as well. I take 10 grams.
I take it every night too.
Oh, did you? Yeah. I take 10 grams. I don't take the full. You took 15, I think, the 3 gummies.
I take 3, but I don't know how my wife would probably text me.
Yeah,
how much I'm actually taking.
Well, they could all have different, like depending on what you're getting, they could have different milligrams. I take 2 5-milligram gummies this the standard like Amazon, gummy melatonin. But anyway, before I go to sleep, usually I'll take some melatonin and I'll usually try to find just like old like wrestling shoot interviews. And a lot of times, like when you go back and I've watched a lot of these throughout the years, but some I haven't seen in forever or maybe at all. And it's like whenever you go back to some of these shoot interviews from like early 2010s era, like every wrestler is bringing up Pac. They're just like this guy. They're like, this guy the debate back then was like him or Ricochet, that was before Osprey hit the scene. But it's just interesting, going back and listening to some of these old interviews like I do so many nights. And then like some of these guys that they're talking about or that I'm watching doing these interviews are still doing it at such a high level in AEW. It's pretty unreal. And obviously the same could be said about Edge and Christian. I mean, they've been around even longer than these other two guys. So I got nothing but respect for all four guys in the match. It just doesn't make any sense for them to take the titles off of Cage and Cope. So I'm going to go with them retaining.
Young Bucks against Moxley and Ospreay, the A team here.
This is a really tough one to call because I feel like you can go. It depends on what route they're going to go with the Death Riders and like how fast with Ospreay and Mox. Like they kind of teased stuff last night when Omega accidentally kneed Mox during the match, and then they all kind of wound up fighting each other, but Ospreay ultimately had Mox's back over Kenny's, like kind of during the brawls at the end. But there was obviously like a lot of miscommunication there too. People like kind of not knowing who they were hitting and stuff. The reason I bring all this up is because, is this match going to be a catalyst towards like Ospreay and Mox splitting up, or do they stay strong with Ospreay heading into Wembley? And if you want them staying strong heading into Wembley, you'd probably have them win this tag team match over, in my opinion, the best tag team, one of the best tag teams ever in the Young Bucks. And still to this day, one of, if not the best in-ring tag teams, I think, in the world still. So, you have the added element, of course, of like the Young Bucks and their relationship with Kenny and Ospreay's match coming up and all that stuff. So there's a lot of ways it can go with this. I'm going to say something happens where there's like miscommunication or something, not necessarily like a total turn, but I think the Young Bucks get the pin on Moxley. That's my call.
Yeah, I think that Moxley's the most likely to take the fall here. And it could just be as simple as, the Young Bucks just pin him. The Bucks losing wouldn't fully surprise me because they like keeping Moxley strong. And obviously Ospreay, you can't beat him even in a tag team match going into All In. So if the Bucks lose, then they're still the Young Bucks. They can still probably easily work their way into the title match at All In, since I assume that's where they're going anyway.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards the Bucks winning, though.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. But also, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Mox and Ospreay just straight up beat the Young Bucks and just keep the momentum going into All In. They can go neither way. I wouldn't be. It's a win-win, I think. Like I wouldn't be upset with either way that they go with this. It's just a matter of like, if I don't know if Ospreay is going to have to beat Moxley before winning the championship, or if they're going to hold off on that until after, or if they'll stay aligned for a while. It really depends on the timeline. Because me and you, like it feels like years ago already, when the Death Riders story started. And even then we were calling for like, how much longer is this going to go? It felt like it could wrap up at any time then, and it's still going. So like, I have no idea what their timeline on this Ospreay and Mox alliance is. But if they're planning on having Mox and Ospreay have a match with one another before Wembley, this would be a good time to have them kind of like, have something happen in this match that puts that match in motion.
We've got the Painmaker, Chris Jericho, against Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah, I like this one. I've liked the matches that these guys have had, and I'm obviously biased. I'm a lifelong Jericho-holic. If Cody Rhodes didn't exist, Chris Jericho would be my all-time favorite wrestler. And I think Ciampa has done some of the best. I mean, especially in the last few years, this is the best stuff he's done. This is for sure the best stuff he's done since like that crazy NXT run he had. And I know he doesn't even like people bringing that up because of like how long ago that was and all that. So like, I like this. I just don't see a scenario where Jericho loses. I feel like Ciampa has beat him enough times throughout this series, and Ciampa got the last win in their last
They've only
match.
beaten him once. They've only had one match.
Is it just the one
Yeah, they just had the match at Beach Break.
that Ciampa won?
Yeah.
I could have sworn they wrestled more than that. Huh.
I
Maybe
could be
I-
misremembering, but I feel pretty confident that
No, they wrestled at the pay-per-view when Ciampa came back.
they definitely didn't.
Oh no, that was Ricochet. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got that mixed up where Ricochet
Okay.
beat Jericho when Jericho, the first match when Jericho came back, Ricochet, and then they did their whole, my bad. I was confusing the two. I combined the two somehow. But nonetheless, Ciampa got the win over Jericho. This is the rematch. It's the Painmaker. I mean, Jericho's winning. I think it's going to be a good one, though. And I've enjoyed their feud.
Yeah, I think Jericho's going to win because of the Painmaker stuff. But I do think it'll be good. Their Beach Break match was good, and, you know, they used some weapons in the environment for that one, and this one's going to be very similar, probably even more so than that one, because since this is an official no-holds-barred match. So I think it'll play to the strengths of both men at this point. Hikaru Shida and Maya World for the TBS title.
You know, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for Maya World to win. Like, the fans are very behind her, and they really, really liked her during the Owen tournament. It's been cool seeing kind of like a resurgence of Shida, because obviously she meant so much to the women's, you know, division as AEW was getting started years back. She was one of the first champions, really one of the centerpieces of the division. So it's been cool to see that. But yeah, there's just, you know, I know obviously there were like the real life circumstances that kind of led to Maya in like the fan base, but like, you know, that's, you know, that's turning what they say, turning lemons into lemonade, like a bad situation, but like you got a ton of fan support and they've stuck with her, you know, and I think that's really cool. So I'm going to go with Maya World mainly because I think Tony knows how bad the fans wanted to see her win before, and now they can do that.
That's fair. Shida's run feels like it shouldn't be that short. Maya might end up being the one to dethrone Athena for the ROH women's title, although I'll believe anybody defeating Athena when it actually happens. That's the only reason I'm slightly leaning towards Shida in this one. Is I think they want to give her a slightly longer run, and I think Maya's being positioned to beat Athena and not win the TBS title. But Maya winning would not shock me, and I would not be opposed to it at all.
Yeah, also part of my line of thinking is I think they're going to have at least one title change on this show. There's one more that I'm thinking may happen, which we'll get to in a second, but that's kind of my line of thinking too. I think if any title is going to change, I think this is the most likely one. But I'm with you. Shida having a shorter title run isn't ideal, but it's also like it's not the end of the world if that happens. I feel like if it's at the expense of Maya World, like while she's over getting the win.
Yeah. Mark Davis, Andrade for the national championship. I assume this is the last title match left, so I think that Andrade seems like they're setting him up for this victory here.
Yeah, I feel like you gotta have Andrade win, but I like Mark Davis a lot. I saw that you guys interviewed him really recently. I haven't had a chance to see the interview yet, but I think it's awesome he was on.
Yeah, we talked to him on Tuesday.
Nice. Yeah, he was a guy, I've said it before, you know, when him and Kyle Fletcher as a team were like really breaking out, especially when they entered AEW from New Japan, it was very clear from the start that there was going to be big plans for Kyle Fletcher. And obviously they had the tie-in with Will Ospreay with their history. So, you know, I always felt like Mark Davis was really just going to be the odd man out. And he really was there for a while. And then he had the thing going with Jake Doyle, and then he got hurt, and then just the crazy circumstances where all of a sudden like he winds up beating Jungle Boy for the national title kind of out of nowhere. And I've loved his run with it. Like I like Mark Davis a lot. I think there's a lot to be said about a guy who like his in-ring work just kind of speaks for itself. Like he's a big, impressive guy, and like the moves he can do are really impressive, but like he himself, I'm trying to think of a way of, like, I'm saying this without like being insulting, but he didn't ever really stand out that much to me with this, like his look. He's just like a big guy. I've seen a lot of big guys with beards like that do similar type of stuff to him, kind of, but he puts a twist on his moves unlike other people. Like he adds little things and little different ways he springboards or hits the ropes differently and stuff. So I got to give him all the credit in the world. But for, I mean, I think he's one of the most entertaining in-ring guys that AEW has right now on a roster of a lot of really entertaining guys. I just feel like AEW has positioned Andrade in a position where like he just can't be losing matches like this because they've just elevated him so much and he's so over, and you can tell that they want him in the world title picture. And I know we can talk about the hierarchy of titles all day, but like common sense to me is like you don't lose a national championship opportunity if you're going to be in the world title scene sometime soon. Like you can't be losing to the national champion if we're about to expect you to be, a challenger for the world title potentially pretty soon, right? So like and obviously Andrade at least has reason for this based on his storyline with the Don Callis family. So at least this isn't just some like random match out of nowhere. This at least makes sense storyline wise. So I like the matchup. I think it's gonna be a really damn good match. But I just do not think that. And by the way, I would not just against Mark Davis. I wouldn't have Andrade losing to pretty much anybody right now, honestly.
Oh, that's fair. Andrade's super over, and I mean he's definitely gonna defeat Mark Davis here. So it should be a good match though. It should be a really good match. What's left? The double chain tag team match, the Bang Bang Gang against the Dogs.
I feel like the Bang Bang Gang's got to get the win here, especially with Jay White recently coming back. Juice, to his credit, man, I've never seen like a goofier looking human being in my entire life, but he's entertaining. Like he's just stuck with it. I remember him back when he was CJ Parker in NXT and being like, oh, this guy's kind of lame. But like Dusty Rhodes was like talking really highly about him back then. I was like, I trust Dusty. And, all these years later, Juice is still out there doing his thing. And him with his over the top, like facial expressions and stuff. Like he's one of the guys who can make the most out of the least, if that makes sense. Like he gets like the camera on him, and in like 2 seconds you'll remember some weird thing he did on camera, or like the whatever weird like hairdo mullet afro thing he rocks during the show. Like he has ways of just standing out, which I got to give him credit for. I just don't see a reason to have the Bang Bang Gang lose to the Dogs. So.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Dogs win. They like David Finlay. I could see Finlay pinning Juice here.
I definitely don't see Jay White taking the loss. Yeah. And they can also prolong. I mean, they can drag this out longer if they want to. There's way more members of these groups that like can.
Yeah, Gabe Kidd will probably be back after the G1. So it wouldn't surprise me if it does get dragged out, and then you add Gabe Kidd to the mix, and now you have new matches between the Bang Bang Gang and the Dog. Maybe the Dogs get a new member.
Yeah, I can see it.
Sean asking who he picked between Willow and Thekla. I am still kind of riding with Willow, and Jensen is going with Thekla. I don't think either of us would be surprised if the other person wins.
No. And just really quickly, just because they asked, I'll just answer very quickly. Evil Diva 78 says, got here late. What's the update, Jensen? Talked about it at the top of the show. If you want like full details, I am still with my company. It's all good. I'm just moving forward with them. But I appreciate the support and yeah, I appreciate the question. But nothing will change for you guys. It's all the same, and I'm still with the same company. I'm just not super happy with the situation, but I'd rather be unhappy with the situation, continue to get paid than be upset and not get paid. So it just is what it is.
And then the 6-way ladder match to determine the international champion. Jack Perry, Beast Mortos, Commander, Speedball, and then there's 2 more names that'll be added on Collision. I won't spoil it for anybody, even though I typically spoil Collision on Friday's show, so I will spoil it on Friday, but I won't spoil it here. I don't think either of these guys are going to win. I feel like it's being set up for Speedball to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Speedball as well. The other names are interesting, though, and I think that they're going to fit in the match a lot. And one of those names in particular, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they do in this match, and would love to see that person win. But I do think that, a lot of good talent, obviously, here. I mean, Jack Perry coming off, re-signing with AEW, talking about wanting to be a world champion. Mortos is the man. He's like the most underrated in-ring wrestler, like maybe one of the most underrated in-ring wrestlers of the generation. Back when he was Black Taurus, I used to always talk about that. I was like, if this guy wasn't rocking this like bull helmet and people like took him seriously, like just on his wrestling alone, he'd be so much. I just feel like there was a ceiling to characters like this, like a bull and this beast character, but his matches are always incredible. Commander, he's going to do something crazy. He'll be running off tight rope, walking all over stuff. So this will be good. But yeah, Speedball's got to get the win here. I think I'm not saying you necessarily have to like compare him and Kevin Knight in their career trajectories or anything like that. But like obviously the two of them are still somewhat kind of tied to one another, and I think like they're going to continue to have matches against one another in like the near future probably. So obviously you see where Kevin Knight's out with the TNT title. I feel like since all those titles mean the same thing, you can have him as the TNT champion, you can have Speedball as the international champion maybe down the line, and now you have 2 champions with 2 different belts that both mean the same thing.
That is AEW Redemption. Anything else about the show before we move on?
No, we can move on. I'm looking forward to it, though. I forgot it was coming up so soon. So I was pleasantly surprised when I realized the other night that it's going to be this Sunday. So I'll be watching.
All right, let's go to WWE Spotlight.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
Bayley may or may not be leaving WWE. She lost to Lyra at Saturday night's main event. She was taken out after the match. Lyra tossed her onto the steps. Seemed like it could be a write-off. Seems like her contract's up either at some point this year or at the end of this year. AEW has interest. Agents have said, at least one agent said, that she'd be smart to test free agency. What is your read on Bayley's future, Jensen?
So I feel like it has to be said, and this is kind of the elephant in the room in this conversation, and I'm not saying that this is how Bayley feels, but I think it's worth considering if you're AEW, the recent, comments from Paige, and I know Paige isn't alone. I think that there's a lot of people that, even if they go to AEW, they're still in the back of their mind thinking, all right, I'm going to take this paycheck, but like WWE's where I really want to be, or there's something about AEW they don't like right away because they're so used to how it is in WWE. They might sour on AEW a lot quicker. And Bayley's been with the WWE for a long time. She's, for the most part, they've been very good to one another, I think. I know that there's been instances where Bayley was like pulled from WrestleMania and stuff. Like, I'm not saying it's all been perfect, but, she has been one of the most prominently featured women over the last, decade plus in the WWE. But I also don't know the full situation. Like, we know that WWE has offered, less money to a lot of their tenured employees recently, causing some to leave the company because of essentially getting their pay cut for no reason. And stuff like that. So I don't know if Bayley's in that kind of camp too, where like she knows her deal's coming up, but the company might be coming to her with low ball offers versus what she was making. And maybe she's like, why would I stay here for less? And I know Tony Khan's he'll pay me a lot of money to come over there. I think AEW obviously needs to sign Bayley if she's available. Like it's a no brainer. Like they're going to be interested. Bayley, I think is smart to test free agency, especially if she is getting lowballed. Don't know if she is, but if she is, I think it's especially smart to test your value in free agency. But also if you're WWE, like I just feel, and you can say this about any team, about any, you can talk about the New Day or anyone, but like that's all just speculation. Same with Bayley, it's all just speculation. But like we know, Paige herself said it. We know we can have a pretty good idea based on some other people who have gone from WWE to AEW and then had issues putting other talent over, or had issues with their booking, or soured on this, or got in a fight with that person or this person, and like they're went back to WWE. Some of them are already out of WWE again a second time, these same people. So I think that's really just kind of that what everyone kind of has to weigh during this process. Like if you're Bayley, do you want to go to AEW where you're friends with Mercedes and there's a whole roster of women who are dream matches for you? I think it'd be a great spot for Bayley. She'd have great matches. They'd push her big time. She'd be a big star in AEW. And I think AEW would, once again, I can't stress this enough. If she's available and she wants to come, AEW has to sign her. Like they have to, for sure. But, and she's but I'm also, this is also Bayley and she's also a certain level. I'm not saying that like because like Sheamus is another one that's like a interesting conversation. It's a very similar conversation where it's like, if he's available and he wants to come over, I feel like AEW, I feel like they really have to at least consider it. But I think they pretty much need to bring him in. He's a huge star, was on WWE for a long time, and was having good matches in WWE before he left. But at the same time, they have the overinflated roster. It's another WWE person coming in. How long before it's like, it's kind of like maybe like a Lashley situation or whatever, you know what I mean? Where it's like they're maybe not being used as much as you probably think that they should be, or they're just not on TV at all, or whatever. So like that's kind of what it all comes down to, is like how many, because obviously the New Day coming in is a no-brainer. I feel like Motor City coming in is a no-brainer. So you're already going to have like a pretty big influx soon, I think, of previous WWE talent coming in. How much do you want to do that at the expense of your current talent and their pushes and how they feel about this? But once again, Bayley's kind of a different conversation because she's at the level she is. So that's how I feel about it. I think ultimately Bayley will probably come to AEW unless WWE makes her like a really good offer or like guarantees her some sort of big push or status like for WrestleMania. You know what I mean? I think they'd have to like give her a really good deal to probably keep her at this point, because I think she knows that AEW will pay her a lot of money to come over there.
When it comes to Bayley, I'm not going to equate her to what Paige said. Paige said her heart wasn't in it. That's a very easy thing to say after you have left, and I mean that company gave you the world title at Wembley when they probably shouldn't have. That company also cleared you when WWE would not do that. I do think in some ways Paige saw AEW as an opportunity of like, I can get cleared, I can show that I can wrestle, and then I can get back to WWE. And if that was her goal, it worked out for her. And maybe that's why her heart wasn't in with AEW. And okay, yeah, we've seen examples of people's hearts not being in AEW and then going to WWE. It is something that AEW and Tony have to be mindful of. I think that's why they probably won't take a shot on Sheamus. Even if Sheamus wants to come there, Sheamus feels like a total just WWE guy through and through. And it feels like he could come to AEW with a mindset of, I'm only here for a short time. The moment WWE calls, I'm headed back there. Bayley feels a whole lot different because she's kind of done everything she can in WWE. There's really nobody left for her to wrestle. I mean, sure, there's new people. There are people coming up. You know, Kendall Gray, Lola Vice. Like, she can certainly wrestle these people, but no one now who's there. They don't really seem to know what to do with her. They dropped the whole split personality thing. She just did the feud with Lyra, which Lyra ended up being the turning person there. She didn't have the WrestleMania match last year. She probably was going to win the tag team titles this year until Paige returned and they wanted to do Paige and Brie. Feels like she's kind of, again, just capped out in WWE. Meanwhile, in AEW, she's best friends with Mercedes. And she's not only best friends with Mercedes as far as just like off screen and wrestling wise, like she has seen what Mercedes has done in AEW. And we know Bayley has a similar mindset as far as I want to help the future of wrestling. She created Lodestone. She wants to help the future of women's wrestling. You're only helping so much in WWE. We've seen what Mercedes has done outside of WWE in helping the future of women's wrestling and traveling to all these places and getting eyes on certain talent that never had eyes on them before. I think Bayley looks at that and thinks, like, together we can really do something over here. I feel like if her contract is up, I'd be kind of surprised if she doesn't go to AEW. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's whatever she wants. If WWE's offering more money and she wants more money, cool. I said this earlier this week. I'll repeat it here. There's more long-term future in WWE because there are more long-term jobs in WWE. Now, look, they can cut you at any time. Don't get me wrong. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I just had to stretch my legs with this chair.
That's fair. That's fair. I was just making sure everything was okay.
Oh no, I'm here. I'm not. No one else is here. I'm not saying anything. Okay. I just had to. My knees were hurting.
Okay, so there's more long-term future in WWE because there's more long-term jobs. They can cut you at any time, but you could be a producer backstage. You could be a coach at the Performance Center. You could be a producer at NXT. Now there's jobs in AAA if you want to go do producing or booking or coaching down there. Like, there's just more of those job opportunities. And you could be a scout. Look what AJ Styles is doing. Like, there's more of those job opportunities in WWE than there is in AEW. And maybe Bayley is looking at that of, all right, I know once I wrap up my in-ring career, which who knows when that's going to be, I can transition here and I can do well here. But I think she's going to end up in AEW. That's my official prediction.
That's my prediction as well. I think AEW makes the most sense. And yeah, she'd have some incredible matches. And the bringing up Lodestone is that's true as well. With even years ago, I can talk about this now because it was so long ago. It doesn't matter. But like back in it was probably 2018, maybe. I've talked about this before on our show over the years, but I went to the TV tapings for this show that was put together called Dojo Pro in Nashville. And Aaron Solo was in the tournament, and Aaron Solo was dating Bayley at the time. And no, she wasn't eating Arby's. But Bayley was there with Aaron, and she was like, just there because they were together, but like she wasn't like a part of the show or anything. But she was in the little building, just watching off to the side. And I know that there was wrestlers like asking her for advice and stuff, and it was just cool because like it was clearly like her day off of her busy WWE schedule, and she was spending that day off at an indie wrestling show, basically helping wrestlers. You know what I mean? So, I just thought that was really cool. So. Yeah, I think Bayley and AEW would be a good fit. I just, and regardless of what happens, even if she goes to AEW then goes back to WWE years later, like who cares if it's a good run in AEW? And maybe she'll stay there for the rest of her career. I think that's the biggest selling point I think AEW has to veteran talents. Bayley could very well have a lot of years left, or she may be winding her career down. Who knows? She's been in the game for a long time now already. But I think that, like, I've heard plenty of interviews, Christian comes to mind. I remember he did an interview with Chris Van Vliet a couple years ago, and he was talking about how he was like on the fence about signing with WWE again once he got cleared, or what he was going to do. He was kind of negotiating with WWE, and he said that he spoke with John Moxley, and Moxley was like, you owe it to yourself to talk to Tony Khan. Like, you just have a conversation with the guy. But his big selling point was, here you get control over how your career ends. And I feel like that's just a huge selling point, because maybe Bayley has like a 5-year plan or something where she's like, I want to do something new with my life 5 years from now or whatever. And she's like, I can decide how I go out on my own terms. I think that's why, obviously, I have like a guy like Christian, a guy like Edge. There's plenty of veterans. I think Moxley will be an AEW lifer unless there's some sort of crazy like one-off opportunity in the WWE for like some massive Shield thing like down the road or something. I think that's why a lot of these guys are gonna come to AEW. Guys and girls are gonna come to AEW and stay at the later end of their career. They can help new talent and have matches against people they've never had matches against before, and also have a much, obviously Sting's the best example, but have a great send-off to your career and have say in it, instead of like leaving it up to the WWE to potentially, nothing. No offense to Baron Corbin, but like no one wanted to see Kurt Angle's retirement match against Baron Corbin. You know what I mean? Like they drop the ball a lot when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, and AEW, you can. That's why Copeland went to AEW.
Yep.
He thought he was going to be treated better there than what he was going to get in WWE. So we shall see with Bayley if she ends up returning to WWE, whether Saturday was a write-off, she resigns, she leaves. We'll know by the end of the year, because there's a lot of reporting on her contract and whether it's up soon, up in a few months, up at the end of the year. We don't know yet, so we'll find out soon enough. All right, let's go to Indie Spotlight.
I want to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Isaiah Broner won the annual SCI Tournament. What were your thoughts on this, Jensen? He's been around for a while, too.
He has, yeah. I'm looking at his cage match. He said how many years during his speech after he won. I just don't want to take credit away from him. I don't want to take any years from him. It says 9. I was going to say 8 years. It says 9 years on Cage Match, so I'm going to go by that. Yeah, he's been around for quite a while. I mean, he's worked the majority of like all the big indie companies over those years. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just agreeing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Have you interviewed him before?
Yeah. He's been on In the Weeds.
We've never had him on this show. Maybe he'd be a good one to reach out to soon if we can get him to talk about the SCI win. I apologize to you and to everyone else. Like y'all know that I love getting guests for this show. What's going on with my job the last week? I just couldn't. I was just my head was elsewhere. I did. We'll talk about the WWE tryouts here in a second, but I did reach out to Josh Bishop and congratulate him for getting the tryout, and he got back to me. So it's obviously pulling for a lot of these talents, and I'm pulling for guys like Isaiah Broner. I think he's been good for a very long time, as we both have said. The finals match, for people who don't know, the SCI tournament, it's a 2-day tournament. They also have the Action Wrestling Future Showcase, which runs also over that weekend. They had a total of like 4 shows in 3 days, or maybe 5 shows in 3 days. So big shout out to the TWE Arena and Jaden and that whole crew. Matt and Scott, and everyone involved in putting these events, these big weekends together. It makes me really miss Southern Underground Pro even more, because these are the kind of weekends where they would have done their thing in Chattanooga, and then that everyone would have went from Chattanooga together to Nashville for the sub show. Just makes me miss those days a lot. But very cool to see. Sorry, I'm getting around. I wanted to let everyone know, if you haven't seen this tournament before, it's like a series of matches that lead to a finals, which is for the main tournament. It's a 4-way elimination match. to crown the winner of the SCI tournament. Last year's winner was Jamison Shook, who we did have on the show right after he won. And Jamison was there to present the trophy to Isaiah after he won. That's a tradition they like to uphold. The previous year's tournament winner hands over the trophy. But the finals of this one were Isaiah Broner, Joseph Alexander, Big Dave, and the Wall Tyler Stevens. And to just kind of paint a picture here, the way this kind of goes down for people who hadn't seen the match, the first elimination was Big Dave, who his finisher is called the Spirit of 99. It's a lariat. And he was going for his Spirit of 99, but Broner caught him with his finisher, which is also a running lariat. So Broner was like quicker to the lariat and got the 1-2-3 on Big Dave. The Wall, I believe the Wall eliminated, the Wall eliminated Joseph Alexander. I'm trying to remember what the Wall did to get the elimination, but I know it came down to the Wall versus Broner, and they had a good back and forth for about the last 5 minutes or so, with with Broner getting the win after hitting a really nice F5. The Wall, Tyler Stevens, is a big dude, and Broner hit a really clean F5 on him, and then there was a kick out, but a little bit later he hit his running lariat again to get the 1-2-3 and win the tournament. And kind of a nice, just straight to the point a victory speech. At the end of every SCI tournament, they give the winner the microphone in the ring to just say something to the crowd. And Broner was basically like, I've been in the game for a long time. I've been really nice for all these years, and I'm trying to be very humble. But he basically says, like, I'm the best in the world right now. Like, I deserve this. And he thanked everybody in that building. Everyone in the company. He thanked the vendors of the literally everyone that was in there. He thanked everybody, and he basically just seemed very appreciative. And this was one of the bigger, if not the biggest, one of the big. He's had some good title runs in some of these bigger indie promotions as well. Like, he's had a successful indie career up to this point for sure, but this was one of the biggest wins of his career, especially when it comes to tournaments. And he even said it himself. He's been trying to get on the SCI tournament, his whole career, his whole indie run. He's been trying to get in this tournament, and he got in and he won the whole thing. So, congratulations to him. He's one guy that I said it on the Weekender pod for years over on Fightful Select. Every time I talked about Isaiah Broner, I almost would always mention he's one of the most believable pro wrestlers out there. Like, he looks like he can kick ass, and he brings an intensity, and his moves, like, he's not out there actually hurting people, but he makes it look like he's laying stuff in. I've never heard, not that we would know all the time, obviously, but like, I've never heard any stories about like him hurting people or people not wanting to work with him or whatever. But when you see him wrestle, it like looks like he's out there laying in on people, but that's just because he's really fucking good at what he's doing. So yeah, I'm very happy for him. And honestly, and this is nothing against anyone else in the tournament, I honestly think, based on the whole field of the tournament, Broner probably deserved it the most of anybody that was in it. So I'm happy to see him win it.
He's somebody, we've interviewed him, in the weeds. I watched him wrestle at Kingston live. So you can imagine what that match what was like. But yeah, Broner, you're right about the believability. He goes out there and he will lay his shit in, and it looks very good. And I was happy to see him win this tournament, because he's just been a guy that's been grinding on the indies for years, and I would like to see him kind of take that next step and get that next shot wherever that might be for him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he's just as if not more like qualified than anyone else out there right now, like, that be ready for the quote unquote next step. I think that he's the kind of guy, like, if he was in TNA wrestling, he could be one of their top guys, like, immediately, if they pushed him correctly. I mean, almost an unknown fish in a small pond that could become a big fish in a small pond very quickly. But also obviously any company, we can get in a whole conversation about WWE ID and whether or not that's smart at this point to like go to Evolve and this and that, get pulled off indie shows. So that's kind of a conversation in itself. But that aside, if AEW is interested, it's all kind of give and take, right? Like if AEW is interested, you might wind up on Ring of Honor for years. If you're WWE ID or get like a lower end WWE deal, you might just be in the Performance Center for a while, or maybe on Evolve, or maybe an NXT at some point. But like, there's really no guarantee of Raw or SmackDown ever or anytime soon. So there's a give and take and an upside and a downside to really any company, I guess, at the end of the day, depending on what level of star you are going into the company, of course. But Broner is a guy who has no history in any of the major companies, so he would be viewed as a homegrown talent in any of these companies, which I think is also a benefit. Especially, I'm not like advocating specifically for TNA for any reason, but like the reason I keep kind of like thinking about that is because I'm always talking about how TNA needs to stop relying on people like, even though they're talented, guys like Nick Nemeth, definitely guys like Elias, whatever you want to call him, like these ex-WWE guys. Like, I want to see guys like AJ Francis push more. I know he's ex-WWE, but his run was very, very short in WWE. I'm talking about guys who had like decade-plus runs in WWE that are in like the upper mid-card to main event scene in TNA all the time. Like, they need homegrown guys like Leon Slater, who really broke out for them. Now, granted, you're going to be at the risk of losing those guys if they get big enough. WWE is going to be interested. TNA or AEW is going to be interested. But if you're TNA, you can't worry about that. You need to become a hub for building stars and actually build those guys and put them on the same level, if not higher than these ex-WWE guys. Or, the only other TNA, like a guy like Moose, who I advocate for pretty often, like Moose versus Isaiah Broner in TNA would be a banger. Like there's a lot, and it would make him credible immediately. Win or lose to Moose, you do that match, the fans would want to see Broner again. Like so anyway, I'm looking forward to him taking the next step because, outside of maybe becoming like a GCW regular or something like that, if that were to happen, like I don't know what more he really needs to do or prove to go to the next level.
Yeah. Speaking of guys trying to get to the next level,
our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
A number of WWE tryouts have been confirmed, and I know the big one that you want to talk about, who's been on our show a handful of times, Josh Bishop is headed for a WWE tryout.
Yes. Yeah, there's a few others that we'll highlight as well. I don't have the whole list in front of me, but we'll definitely start off with Josh. So
I've got the majority of the list.
Okay. The big standouts for me, I think, I don't know if I've even seen the full list, but I saw Titus Alexander was on there too.
Titus Alexander's also, that was a big one. And Cody Lane has also been on our show.
Oh, Cody Lane was on there.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he was on there. Good for him. So yeah, starting with Josh, I can't take credit as being I'm the first person who ever discovered this guy. Not the absolute first, but I'm probably within like the first 5 or so. Like I think I'm the first person that ever interviewed him for any kind of podcast. So I've always had a very strong interest in the career of Josh Bishop because I saw his literal like I may have seen his first match ever. I know I saw within his first like 2 or 3 matches ever. And yeah, y'all can go through the Supgraps archives for Southern Underground Pro on IWTV if you want to see the progression of Josh Bishop from those days. But I'll never forget, like, it's like tripping me out almost, but I'll never forget that back, this had to have been 2000, around the same year I was talking before, maybe 2017, 2018, something like that. I remember in the basement east, which is where Sup ran most of their shows, there's a stage in there. Like they have the wrestling ring just in the middle, like on the floor in the middle of this bar. And there's a stage in there because there's a lot of, they do a lot of music show, like a lot of bands performing there. So I'll just never forget just standing up against the stage, and I was just standing next to Josh, and he had just had like his like second or third match ever in his career, and we were both just standing there side to side, and I was just like, we just talked for like probably like a half hour just about like wrestling, and he was like, Filthy Tom Lawler had just like befriended him and like took him under his wing, and he's like, man, I really hope this works out. Like Tom's the man, but like I don't want to disappoint anybody. Like I'm getting a big opportunity that like he wants to help me out. He was just like nervous and just like was hoping to get any kind of fans, and like he didn't look a whole lot like Sid Vicious yet. Like he still hadn't put on like he was a big dude, but like he's a lot bigger now. And anyway, I'll just never forget that conversation, just standing there next to him. Like this is almost like a decade ago now almost. And it's like, and thinking then, like this dude is probably going to be a worldwide superstar at some point. Like based on a little bit that I had seen up to that point, I was like, this guy has everything. And then he only just got better and better and better to where he is now. And y'all can vouch for me here on this show. I brought up Josh Bishop a trillion times on this show whenever anybody brings up anything about like indie talents. So I bring up him, I bring up Cole. There's certain guys that like I bring up off. I always bring up Alec Price all the time before he got signed. Like there are certain people that like I've really taken interest in just because I know when the right eyes see them, they're going to get signed. They're going to have big careers. And even when we interviewed, who did we interview? It might have been John Thorne. It was probably John Thorne. We interviewed years ago from AEW. And even back then, that was probably 4 years or so ago. And I was like, how are the major companies still missing out on Josh Bishop? And we're all just like, yeah, this dude prints money. Like, we don't know what, like, I think like he's had stints in like MLW and TNA and stuff, but this is going to be, you know, who knows if he gets signed or not. But I think it's a pretty good sign that the WWE wants him at the tryout. And at some point, it just becomes inevitable. Like this guy, like if WWE doesn't do it soon, AEW is going to. I mean, somebody's going to sign this guy to a big contract for big money because he looks like a pro wrestling star. He wrestles like a pro wrestling star. Like it's not like he just kind of looks like Sid Vicious. This dude goes out there and puts on banger matches and is talking about believable. We're talking about Isaiah Broner, Josh Bishop, same type of thing, just believable. And I'm obviously biased because he's just been a cool guy to me and to us over the years too. Even I'll pull back the curtain a little bit too. There were times where like we scheduled him for interviews, and he'd have to reach out because like, you know, his shoot job's keeping him long or whatever. And he's the type of guy who will be like, but you know, like me and you were cool, so like. Because we're boys, like if I need to leave work early, like I'll just tell him to fuck off pretty much. And it's like no, dude, like no, like we'll schedule for later. But like he's that kind of guy where like the only reason he's like that with me is because he remembers that I wanted to interview him before anybody cared about him, you know. So like now that the whole wrestling world's about to have eyes on him, and he's about to. He'll probably stop responding to my messages soon, but I'm I'm happy when that kind of stuff happens. It's bittersweet, but there have been many people that we've interviewed over the years, or that I interviewed solo myself years ago. That day comes when that contract comes around, and they'll literally message me and just be like, "I'm sorry, but like I can't do the interviews anymore." Like, and I'm like, I get it. Like you don't have to clear it with WWE, and I'm not trying to do all that. So cool, you know. And that'll be Josh soon because he's going to be a huge star. So,
yeah, it was cool to see Josh on the list, and hopefully the tryout, you know, works out well for him. You never know what they're looking for in these types of things, but Josh is definitely a dude who has the look, has the in-ring ability. He's hilarious. He's very charismatic. If you just kind of let him go on these things, it's just a matter of what are they looking for, because no one knows in WWE what they're looking for on a certain taste.
Bro, I'll say this, and I would not just say this for no reason, because also people got to realize, I don't know what Josh's age is. I'm going to look it up, but he's got to be still in like his mid-20s. Like he's still a young guy. Josh Bishop cage match. Let me just look this up real quick, just so I don't sound stupid. He's at 29 years old, so still not 30 yet. A lot of guys hit their prime in their mid-30s, to be completely honest. I think right around early 30s is like he's in a good pocket right now with his age, and he's still getting better. I'm not exaggerating. Like, this dude could main event WrestleMania one day. Like, I honestly think that. Like, I think if guys like Oba Femi can get these kind of pushes like he's getting right now, Josh isn't the same size as Oba, but like, I think if the fans can get behind, and I think the fans will get behind Josh big time, even if it's like with Sid comparisons, because a lot of people fucking love Sid, like, and feel like he didn't have a big enough, you know, even though a lot of that was on him for like taking time off for softball and whatnot and switching companies over and over. But I think the fans are going to get really behind Josh, and I think he would be really good fit for the WWE audience, especially if they let him keep a lot of those moves that he does. Like, if he can be the dude hitting people with like outsiders edges and stuff, because like no one is using that as a finisher, like he will get over. And, you know, I'm just throwing it out there. Like I was saying before Penta came over to from AEW to WWE, I was like, there's going to be huge money in this guy. This guy's going to be in like singles championship matches in WrestleMania within like a year or two. Like you just know sometimes that if the WWE machine gets behind certain people, they can make them huge. And I just feel like, and there's no one else on the roster really like Josh. There's other big people, but he's still different in the way that he can wrestle and stuff. So yeah, I really think he could be a main eventer of WrestleMania one day. Remember this conversation if it ever happens.
A couple other names. I know we mentioned Titus Alexander. Titus has been on the show before. Titus is still so young, and he's already been like one of the top guys on the West Coast for a few years now. I'm kind of surprised it's taken him this long to again get a look by any of these companies as well. But hopefully things, much like Josh, kind of go well for him, and he's the kind of guy they're looking for at these tryouts.
Well, and these are also, I don't know, I've never asked and I've never looked into, you know, any of these names in particular that we're talking about, whether or not they were ever offered WWE ID deals at any point. But these are the kind of talents that like I would recommend against an offer like that. And not to say like, you know, like Marcus Mathers is on an ID deal, and I think Marcus is great, and he's very talented and has been since he was a teenager, and he's only getting better. And you know, it's not a bad thing to have the WWE, you know, branding behind him, but it's stifling his scene on the indies at the moment a bit, because people I think are more tentative to book some of the ID talent now, is like of having to get pulled off shows and stuff. So like that's going to be kind of the trade-off. It's like, do I want the WWE next to my name when I'm on an indie poster, or do I just say no to them and then hope that they invite me one day? And I think that could be a situation some of these talents might be in potentially. I don't know. But it's hard for me to believe that WWE hasn't known about Titus Alexander for a while, you know. So, and if they're signing guys like Marcus Mathers, I have to imagine, or to ID, I have to imagine Jack Cartwheel and stuff. I have to imagine Titus has been on their radar or offered, and now just the timing is more right. Because that's the difference, right? Like, take a WWE ID contract and really roll the dice on what they're going to actually do with you and do with that, or, you know, get an actual contract, just hold out longer and have them come to you. So I remember Robert Bellamy, probably 3-4 years, whenever we interviewed him, probably for this show. He's the father of Billy Starks, for people who don't know, and obviously has been around a ton of wrestling and very, very good mind, in my opinion, for new talent. He's actually the person who put me onto Rachel Armstrong, like before anyone was talking about her, and now she's doing really well for herself too. Mouse, I remember years ago saying Titus Alexander was the best wrestler in the world. I mean, and that was like 3-4 years ago, and he's only gotten better since then. Yeah, I mean, talent-wise, there's no reason why WWE shouldn't sign him if it makes sense for everybody involved, you know. Because Titus is also the kind of guy where, you know, AEW's roster is so inflated that I'm not really recommending anybody go there necessarily right now, just because they're having a hard time getting everyone on TV, or, you know, you all know the issues with the overinflated roster and the TV time. But Titus has the talent to, like, he could hang with anyone on the AEW roster, which I couldn't say about everybody. You know what I mean? So Titus, I think, is going to have options regardless, but I think WWE would be very smart to. I think they'd be very smart to sign him if he's interested.
So some other names. I mentioned Cody Lane. He's been on the show before. Yeah, go ahead.
Master of the Senton.
Yes.
Yeah, he's another one. I remember his come up from mainly from the Glory Pro scene, like the St. Louis kind of area. Him and Dan the Dad, he's another guy who I interviewed really early on in his career. I've always kind of followed along with Dan the Dad, and the two of them, have a good tag team and stuff. And so, yeah, I didn't know that. I just hadn't been paying attention, but that's very cool to hear that Cody, because he's a unique guy. He's got a unique look, little flamingos thing and all that. Like, he's very, I don't know, flamboyant, the right word. You know what I mean? Like eccentric, whatever the word is. Like, very, very eye catching and colorful and great moveset. And like the saying, master of the senton, has probably the best, just straight up senton off the second rope of anybody in wrestling. So, good for him. And there's another one I would advocate, because I'm a fan of all these people. I hope they all get offered deals if it's what they want and it makes sense for them. These people are all talented in their own ways for sure.
People like J-Rod, Conan Lycan, Ox Adams, Brooke Havoc, Nate Prince, Bobby Caselli.
Oh, sorry. Was there anyone else? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Those are kind of the independent wrestlers. They have some models and some bodybuilders. Monica Monroe as well. Booker T confused Blake Monroe with her one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Those are kind of all the independent wrestlers. Everybody else is kind of like bodybuilder or college athletes.
Well, and a lot of the male wrestlers are on the built side too, big dudes that they're not. It's not surprising to me that WWE is interested in them, and they deserve it too. I don't have the same connection to all of them that I do on a personal level as a fan as I do as some of the others I just mentioned that I've been watching for longer. But Brooke Havoc though, that was inevitable. She's a Cody trainee. She's I think that she also, Brooke gets I don't know how to say this. I'm not saying it's unjust, but she gets heavily pushed. She's been very protected for her indie run. She'll go into a company like GCW and not lose to anybody. And I think part of that is calculated because I think, I'm not saying it's political, she's going in there and saying I'm not going to lose to this person, that person. I think that it's been known pretty much since she trained that she was special and that she was going to have a future at the next level, and that people like Cody were looking out for her and probably going to be putting in a word for her when the time was right and stuff. So similar in a lot of ways to Megan Bayne, kind of Megan Bayne, super protected in GCW, and it was well, she's about to be in AEW, she's about to be on TV, she's got to, they're going to protect her. So I think that Brooke's in a similar boat where she's very talented, she has the right people around her, she had great training, she'll have a good support system. I fully expect her to sign with the WWE. I expected her to sign with the WWE once she started having matches on the indies, and I knew she was, she's one of the few people, usually they'll mention, this or that, trained to the Nightmare Factory, blah, blah. They make it a point to bring up that she's trained by Cody Rhodes, every time she wrestles on commentary anywhere. And I think that's also kind of calculated. I think Cody wants to be associated there because I think they view her as one of their top people to come out of that school in their system. So,
any other thoughts on the tryouts?
No, that's pretty much it. Good luck to everybody. I considered, like I said, I reached out to Josh Bishop, and he thanked me for the well wishes, and I part of me wants to invite him on, but part of me is I don't want to jinx anything. So I'm sure I'll catch up with him to some degree sometime soon, especially if news comes out that he's signing. Maybe I should tell him if he's going to sign, I want the scoop. Give me the scoop. and no one else. But yeah, I mean, literally everyone you mentioned, I think everyone could make it to the WWE for their own reason. I fully expect Brooke Havoc to sign. I think WWE would be insane not to sign Josh Bishop. I think it'd be very cool if they signed Cody Lane. They just have to have a plan for him. And Titus Alexander, I think, is going to have the most options of anyone, just because, like, if he wanted to, he could leverage. If he wanted to work anywhere else in the world, whether it's overseas or AEW or anywhere else, like, he could leverage his WWE tryout into a deal with literally any company, because, like, he can wrestle literally anyone anywhere. So I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I'm just saying, like, for him, it's just show up, show out, do what you do. If WWE's interested and you want to go, awesome, you totally deserve it. If not, like, you're going to get signed somewhere else. Like, you're still young and you're incredible. So, like, it's kind of a win-win for Titus.
All right, Jensen, anything else before we wrap up today?
Yeah, just real quick, I'll mention, because we did start at 6 p.m. tonight, a half hour early, so going to get out of here a little early if y'all entered the show late. But please catch up, on demand for anything that you missed. And I appreciate everyone in the chat. I was going to mention, I did see the WWE Sirius XM thing. And I think I liked one of your tweets, like, right before we came on here, that you put something up about that, right?
Yeah, I had a couple, yeah.
That's interesting to me, because that medium of not just radio, but even, like, more specifically Sirius XM radio, just feels so dead to me. And I don't know what WWE is really thinking doing that, unless they're really planning to, almost like when they created Tout, and it was like, why are y'all doing this when, like, Twitter exists and stuff? Like, why are you trying to make your own thing? It's like, well, nobody's using Sirius XM anymore, so if we can kind of make this like the WWE network of radio, then they can probably get in on, a higher percentage of, like, the subscription or whatever. I'm sure they have I'm sure, obviously they have their business reasons for doing this, and they think it's a good idea. But,
I don't know if there's... Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if there's, like, a full-on business reason for this. I think this is more of, let's control the conversation. Like, SiriusXM is a big platform, and it's got a lot of subscribers. Okay, instead of doing our own podcast network, which they've tried, and they did it on, like, they have YouTube, and I'm sure this stuff is still going to be on YouTube, but I don't think their own, like, podcast network really panned out or anything. They're doing what they do with everything else. They're doing what they did with the library. Instead of having their own network, it's like, well, let's just license our stuff here, and here, and get paid that way. And they just want eyeballs and now ears, and they wouldn't control the conversation. This is why they partnered with Front Office Sports, a big media website. It's like, you guys are going to cover WWE, and you're going to cover it how we want it. This is ESPN. Why, Andreas Hale had to kind of stop giving grades because they're a partner. And it's like, well, what are we doing? We're partners here. Give us a good grade. And now it's the same thing with SiriusXM. Is busted open. It's going to be a lot of WWE talk. And now they're going to have WWE-specific shows on the platform. Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do... I mean, obviously, they're not going to make a bad financial decision. I'm sure it's rewarding for them in some way. But this is just more of, let's control the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. But I also saw they were doing stuff like... I think I saw something about, like, Booker T and Big Joseph are going to have, like, their own commentary live during PLE events and stuff, where, like, you can tune in for, like, their alternate commentary, their fight companion, basically. Which, you're right. I just, when I think XM radio, the one person who survived it like a cockroach in the wrestling space has been Sam Roberts. I love Sam. I've been a fan of Sam Roberts since he was an intern on Opie and Anthony back in the day, which also was on Sirius XM. But that was such a different world back then. And Sam, has had his show with Jim Norton for a long time now. He does it himself. But from that sense, it's kind of cool because like he's stuck with XM for so long, and obviously he works for WWE also, and I'm sure his shows will be on this WWE XM network and stuff. So like, I'm happy for like him and stuff like that. But on the flip side, when you think about XM radio, I think I just read something the other day about Howard Stern is only doing like one show a week now or something, and he does it from home. And like at one point, the whole reason to subscribe to XM radio was because they had Howard Stern. Like that was like the whole draw, and that's why he got paid incredible money back then, and why he was called the king of all media and all this stuff. And now I think the kind of writing is kind of on the wall when like Opie and Anthony doesn't exist anymore. Howard Stern is doing one day a week for like massively reduced pay from what I understand. And his show just isn't nearly as culturally relevant as it used to be. And I think part of that is, people get older and interests change and audiences change and all that stuff, but way less people listening to the radio now than ever before. So it just seems backwards to me for WWE to even go into the radio game at all. But like you said, it is a medium. There are subscribers. A lot of people listen to XM just because it's like free with their car and stuff too. I mean, like I know that there are people who listen to it, but I just feel like way more people are doing, they just put on something on demand on whatever YouTube channel that they watch or listen to whatever Spotify or iTunes or whatever. And everyone's just been doing that and getting away from radio for all these years. So it just kind of seems surprising that it felt like they were kind of going backwards. But if there are people listening to the platform, WWE is going to want to control the conversation, like you said. So it's just another way to do that. If anyone's still listening, I guess they'll be trying to persuade them.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Let everybody know where they can find you at, Jensen.
X Fight Talk _. Yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the pay-per-view on Sunday, AEW Redemption. And then we'll have, I guess, predictions for SummerSlam on next week's show, because that'll be coming up the following weekend, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of wrestling going on. Y'all pray for me that I get through tomorrow without losing my mind. Just got to keep on keeping on at work, get through tomorrow, right back to the weekend. So good to see you, Jeremy. Congratulations again on the 24-hour stream. That was very, very well done. And congratulations on the TK interview. That was sick.
I appreciate that you showed up to it. And again, I know I messaged you afterwards. I tried to message everybody afterwards, but I got a lot of help on that thing. Just some behind the scenes stuff that people I've talked about, but just everybody showing up on screen when they did, and it made it much easier just having a constant flow of people always there. So, and I appreciate that you were part of that as well, being there from Thursday afternoon or Thursday evening, and we got two really good interviews with Trevor Lee and AJ Francis, and then Saturday, I guess afternoon, evening portion as well. So, or Friday, Saturday, I lost track of the days. It was Friday, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. That was sick, by the way. Trevor Lee and AJ were both great. I really like talking to both those guys. So I appreciate you setting those up. Two guys I'd never interviewed either of them before. So I was happy.
Yeah, we've talked to Trevor Lee. That was like my third interview with him in like a month. So Trevor Lee's been pretty constant on In the Weeds. So when they offered him at whatever time it was, 7, he joined us at 7, right? Yeah, when they offered him at 7, I was like, oh, that's great. Jensen has never talked to Trevor Lee, so there will actually be a new line of questioning here that's not from me, Joel, or SB3, because we've talked to him a lot over the past month. So, yeah, the timing on that was really good. And AJ Francis was a kind of a late ad, but it was nice of him to join us before Impact went on the air. All right. Jensen and I will be back next week. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow on In the Weeds. End of the show, tune in for the entire show, but end of the show, tune in around noon. I will be doing the Ice Bucket Challenge. I'm going to nominate all of my friends, so they better be doing the Ice Bucket Challenge as well. Until then, everybody, take care. Talk to y'all later.